Long ago, when people didn't have electric light or scientific knowledge, the night felt like a mysterious, dangerous place. Cats, with their glowing eyes and silent movements, seemed to belong to that darkness. They moved through shadows, as if they owned them. People who were already frightened of what they couldn't see started to think cats carried some of that darkness inside them. In medieval Europe, many believed that black cats were witches in disguise or messengers of evil spirits. Some thought a cat crossing one's path meant bad luck was coming, but none of that was true. Those stories grew out of fear, not fact. Cats were simply doing what cats do best, walking quietly, hunting at night, minding their own business. Dogs didn't escape false stories either. In some ancient legends, black dogs were seen as omens of death. People believed that seeing one meant someone close would soon die. Travelers told tales of ghostly hounds that followed them through foggy fields at night, and writers repeated those stories until people forgot they were just myths. In truth, dogs often roamed the countryside after dark because they were curious or looking for food. They were not spirits of doom, but living, breathing animals trying to survive near humans who both loved and feared them. These kinds of stories hurt more than just the animals. They damage the relationship between humans and nature. Fear makes people act cruelly. There were times when cats were chased away from villages, especially during times of illness or famine, when people wanted something to blame. Ironically, those same cats could have helped control rats that carried disease. Dogs, too, were sometimes mistreated because people thought they carried curses. These reactions show how easily fear can twist perception when kindness and understanding are missing. The old myths can still echo in small ways today. Some people hesitate to adopt black cats because they still think of them as unlucky. Some think stray dogs are dangerous by nature, when in reality most are simply scared and waiting for someone to show kindness. When people repeat negative myths, even as jokes, those stories quietly keep fear alive. The good news is that new stories can replace them. When someone rescues a black cat or a stray dog and treats them with love, that act itself becomes a modern legend, one that heals the harm of centuries. Cats are healers. Their entire body vibrates at a healing frequency. When a cat purrs, it releases a sound vibration usually between 25 and 150 hertz, which coincidentally matches the frequencies known in modern medicine to support bone growth, tissue repair, and pain relief. That's why people who live with cats often feel calmer or recover faster from stress or sadness. The body responds to that vibration even if the mind doesn't notice. Spiritually speaking, cats work on what could be called the emotional body or energy field of a person. Every thought, emotion, or memory we hold produces a kind of subtle charge. When energy gets heavy, from grief, anger, or exhaustion, cats sense it. They might come lie on your chest or near your stomach, the very places where emotion collects. They stay there, purring softly, until the energy shifts. They don't take your pain, they help it release. It's their way of restoring flow where it has become blocked. Ancient healers understood this. They saw that when a cat lived in a home, the emotional atmosphere stayed more balanced. The animal naturally kept away what we'd now call negative energy. Cats absorb static or disharmonious frequencies and ground them through their connection to the earth. They also teach their humans a calmer rhythm, slow breathing, quiet observation, patience. Just being near them trains your nervous system to settle. If you've ever been upset and a cat came to sit beside you without judgment, you felt that healing power directly. It's not a miracle in the dramatic sense. It's a very steady, natural kind of medicine. Their presence restores stillness, and stillness is what lets life reorganize itself into health. Dogs are very different from cats in the way they interact with humans and energy. Understanding this difference helps explain why witches historically preferred cats over dogs. Though dogs can also have a kind of healing presence. Dogs are outward-focused creatures. They are loyal, protective, and social. Their energy is expansive, expressive, and directed toward other beings and their environment. This makes them excellent companions for protection, for alerting to danger, and for maintaining safety in the physical world. They bond through emotion and action. If someone is anxious, a dog responds to that emotion and reacts outwardly, barking, nudging, or guarding. Dogs excel at responding to external threats, creating security, and teaching loyalty and trust through interaction. In esoteric teaching, every living being has an aura or energy field. Cats have a strong and fluid one. When they walk through a room, their field moves through the air like a brush smoothing water. It clears stagnant energy and grounds it back into the earth. Because they are naturally attuned to quiet yin or lunar energy, they dissolve chaotic vibrations that feed on fear. That's why people have always felt that a cat guards a home spiritually. The women we now call witches understood this sensitivity. They lived among herbs, stones, and cycles of nature, all of which carry subtle energy. When they performed healing or divination, they needed to keep the surrounding field steady so the work stayed pure. A cat's presence helped with that. The animal detected any disturbance, whether it came from a wandering spirit, a human's bad mood, or an imbalance in the ritual space. Its behavior told the witch when something wasn't right. In that sense, the cat was both guardian and signal. So yes, witches kept cats because they helped keep unwanted energies away, but not because the cats were magical soldiers battling demons. Their protection came through balance, not aggression. A cat creates harmony, the same way still water clears muddied waves. When a cat lives in a home, the energy of that home tends to settle. Animals bring a quiet medicine that works on levels beyond immediate view, and many healing paths recognize cats and dogs as skilled partners in recovery because their bodies and behavior naturally tune to states that humans often cannot reach alone. Shamanic traditions across many lands use song, breath, and careful touch to help a person retrieve parts of the self that feel lost or shut down. And in those practices, animals enter not as tools, but as living aids whose rhythms support the work. When a dog leans into a wounded shoulder or a cat curls against a troubled chest, contact moves more than muscle and skin because the shared breath and warmth help the nervous system find safety long enough for deeper repair to begin. Caregivers who work in healing settings learn to notice how an animal's presence either calms or sharpens the room, and they adjust posture, voice, and breath in order to create a steady field that the animal can read and reflect back to the person who seeks help. Energy frameworks offer a map that helps explain these exchanges without turning them into superstition, because the sensing of subtle fields depends on concrete practices that anyone can learn. Practitioners describe energy as movement that accompanies emotion and attention, and animals register that movement through tiny changes in skin temperature, micro-posture shifts, and the cadence of breath. When a human settles the breath into longer, softer cycles, the animal often responds with matched slowing. And when steady coordination emerges, both bodies shift out of alarm into repair. Simple exercises train people to notice and influence these exchanges. Place one hand gently on the animal's flank, breathe slowly while counting 4 in and 6 out, and allow attention to rest on the rise and fall of both chests, because the breath becomes a live bridge that teaches co-regulation and helps restore a steady heartbeat after stress. Those who work therapeutically with animals repeat such routines as reliable tools rather than mystical tricks, and the repeated practice turns small moments of calm into durable capacities for both the human and the animal. Therapeutic uses of companion animals have become formalized in many places through animal-assisted therapy programs, and clinicians who design those programs focus on measurable outcomes such as lowered anxiety, improved social engagement, and increased physiological regulation. Programs vary, but effective designs always begin with 2 priorities: the welfare of the animal and the clear consent of the person who will work with the animal. Therapists train animals and handlers to maintain calm behavior, to accept interruption, and to disengage when the animal signals fatigue or stress, because ethical practice protects both sides and prevents secondary harm. When programs follow these standards, results appear in concrete changes. A person who once froze in social settings may practice greeting with a dog beside them and learn to ease the body into short interactions. A survivor who struggles with sleep may use the steady warmth of a cat during a guided relaxation and find the transition into rest becomes easier over weeks. Cats and dogs teach attention in ways that words cannot fully capture, because animals live constantly in the present and because their behavior cuts through human distraction like a clear bell. So when a person slows down and simply watches a cat of steady gaze or a dog of eager focus, the body and mind begin to remember a simpler rhythm that has been forgotten. That remembered rhythm arrives as calmer breathing, softer thinking, and a widening of awareness that lets small sensations speak before big stories take over. And practicing that kind of watching every day trains the nervous system to accept quiet without making meaning of it immediately. Cats offer a particular model of inner stillness and careful boundary keeping, because a cat will sit perfectly still for long minutes while the world shifts around it, and that ability shows how attention can rest at depth without needing constant stimulation or busying thoughts. So a clear practice arises from watching a cat move through a room. Follow the cat's eyes and notice the exact moment the pupils shrink or widen. Notice the deliberate adjustment of the body. Notice how the animal chooses to engage or to withdraw, and allow those visible choices to teach how to conserve energy, how to refuse needless reaction, and how to return to quiet focus when the mind insists on drifting. Dogs teach attention through relationship and responsiveness, because a dog listens for human signals and then answers them with full body presence. And that responsive quality becomes a living lesson in alignment, where the human learns to send cleaner cues with breath, posture, and soft words. And the dog's steady readiness rewards small shifts in intention, which trains the person to become clearer, more reliable, and more compassionate in how attention is offered to others. Animals reveal shadow material by acting as living mirrors, because humans tend to project hidden needs, fears, and habits onto creatures who do not speak the human language. And when a person notices repeated friction, an unrealistic demand for attention, a chronic anxiety about abandonment, a controlling way of handling the animal, the pattern often points back to an old wound or a defended part of the self that seeks repair rather than blame. And working with those reflections requires honesty. Name the pattern quietly, allow the feeling behind it to be felt fully without acting on it immediately, and then choose a different, kinder response that supports both the animal and the healing person. Practical attention exercises grow from the simple acts of shared presence and gentle curiosity, and a straightforward practice begins by settling near the animal with both feet on the floor and breath that lowers slowly for several cycles. Then placing hands where the animal invites touch and watching the sensation of breath as a bridge between bodies, because the breath anchors attention. And by repeating this routine daily, the nervous system will learn to ride small waves of agitation instead of leaping into anxiety, and the animal will learn to trust steady calmness as a predictable gift rather than a rare event. When it comes to cats and dogs, respect is the heart of everything. They are not just helpers or companions or symbols of luck or wisdom. They are beings with their own lives, feelings, and needs. A true connection starts with noticing that, and it grows through everyday choices, giving them space when they want it, listening to their signals, making sure they are healthy, safe, and comfortable. These are not small gestures. They are the foundation of a relationship that is alive and honest. Every small act of care is like a brick, building a home of trust and devotion between you and your companion. Devotion is not something grand or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and repeated. Filling a bowl, brushing fur, speaking softly, offering a hand at the right moment, done consistently, shows love more clearly than any fancy ritual. Cats and dogs notice consistency more than words. They learn to trust through our actions, and that trust becomes a spiritual experience in itself. When care is steady, devotion feels like a living pulse between you, a rhythm that grounds both human and animal. Sometimes devotion is formalized into a covenant. This doesn't mean complicated legal contracts. It can be a simple promise to protect, feed, and honor the animal through its life. A covenant reminds people that relationships with animals are long-term responsibilities, not just fun or convenience. Writing down or speaking a clear promise about how the animal will be cared for, even in simple terms, gives structure and clarity, and it ensures that if life changes, someone else knows exactly what to do. Please share this video with people around you.